The president's insistence on a presidential system, demonstrated by his recent remarks that the issue should be a topic during the upcoming election campaign, may be considered a reflection of his lust for power as well as an attempt to prepare the groundwork for a shift to that system should the ruling party be victorious in the June elections. President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan said in the past week that he wants a strong presidential system to replace the current parliamentary system of government, saying the shift should be a topic during the upcoming election campaign. Claiming, in sharp contrast to reality, that most developed countries are governed by a presidential system, he told a group of journalists on his way back to Turkey from Africa, that shows that this system produces better results. Given this, why should we put shackles on our feet by sticking to a parliamentary regime? But according to Mehmet Aknar, a security analyst at the Ankara-based Center of Law, Ethics, and Political Studies, HESA, Erdoğan's real motive might be different. The president's lust for power as well as his desire to keep the ruling party under control at all times has a role in Erdoğan's effort, Aknar told Sunday's Zaman. If the ruling Justice and Development Party, AK Party, manages to get enough votes in the elections on June 7 to change the constitution in favor of a presidential system, Erdoğan will have all the power in his hand, whereas now he mostly enjoys symbolic powers. According to Aknar, Erdoğan aims, by bringing the issue up for discussion ahead of the elections, to psychologically prepare society for a shift to a presidential system from a parliamentary democracy, hoping that the ruling party will win the elections. By repeatedly bringing the issue up for discussion, he wants to create the impression among the public that voters will have also voted on this issue. If the AKP party gets enough votes to obtain power, the voters will be considered to have in this way given their approval for a presidential system, he said. In a kind of fait accompli, Erdoğan also said, in remarks published on Tuesday, that he believed Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu would agree with him on the issue. Noting that the issue was discussed ahead of the presidential election in August last year, Erdoğan said, "I assume that the issue is also one of the strongest theses that Mr. Ahmet Davutoglu would defend." Erdoğan, who has long been known for his aspirations for a presidential system, made clear even before the presidential election in August, in which a president was for the first time elected by popular vote, that he would not act in the same way as former presidents had. That meant he would not refrain from meddling in the government's affairs, which the current constitution authorizes him to do to a certain extent by allowing the president to head a cabinet meeting whenever he wishes. Erdoğan wants to control everything. This is Erdoğan's way of doing politics, HESA's Aknar said, maintaining that Erdoğan dreams of being referred to as an eternal leader of the country. He wants to keep everything under his control. He is intervening both in the ruling party and parliament, despite the fact that it is against the constitution, Aknar added. The constitution, which is based on a parliamentary democracy, requires that a president cut off his ties with the political party with which he was affiliated before being elected. Erdoğan, who served as a strong prime minister during AK party rule, has not so given much attention to this aspect of the constitution, which aims to ensure impartiality of the president. Although Erdoğan revealed that he expected a positive comment from Davutoglu, whom Erdoğan appointed as prime minister after taking office as president, Davutoglu chose to remain silent on the issue. Erdoğan wants to have all the executive power by controlling both the ruling party and the executive, Ergun Özbudan, a professor of constitutional law at Istanbul Seyir University, told Sunday's Zaman. According to Özbudan, Erdoğan has so far kept de facto control over the government despite the constitution, and now aims to transform this de facto situation into a legal one by a shift to a presidential system. For Attila Kart, a deputy from the Republican People's Party, CHP, Davutoglu's silence is an indication of the prime minister's failure to use his powers based on the constitution. Critics are concerned that more executive powers in the hands of Erdoğan will likely intensify Turkey's drift towards a one-man rule that would turn out to be a presidential system à la Turca, dealing thereby a lethal blow to the checks and balances in a parliamentary democracy. According to Ersin Kalakalı, a political scientist at Sabancı University, the presidential system Erdoğan has in mind is one without any solid checks and balances against a powerful president. He wants a system in which he will have all the power, Kılıçdaroğlu told Sunday's Zaman. Kılıçdaroğlu interprets the Prime Minister's silence over Erdoğan's remarks as an unwillingness to change to a presidential system. "I don't think Davutoglu favors the idea," he said. In his remarks to the group of journalists, Erdoğan argued that checks and balances that would exist with a presidential system do not even exist today in Turkey's parliamentary system. However, he ruled out the possibility of establishing a bicameral legislature like in the US, saying such a system would cause delays and obstructions in decision-making. There would be no obstruction by the House of Representatives or the Senate as occurs in the US if there is a powerful presidency. "I also defend a unicameral system, not dual one," Erdoğan said, revealing that he envisages a presidential system in which president is a king-like figure. Opposition blasts Erdoğan for seeking one-man rule. "That means Erdoğan wants the ability of parliament to check the president to be limited," said Özbudun, drawing attention to the risk of an Alaturka presidential system. According to the CHP's card, who noted that Erdoğan has blatantly violated the constitution on numerous occasions since being elected, what Erdoğan is after is a presidential system based on one-man rule. What Erdoğan actually wants is to have the authority to dissolve parliament and design the judiciary according to his will, Kart told Sunday's Zaman. A ruling AK party that is not under his control may be quite dangerous for him, Erdoğan may have also thought. Although Prime Minister Davutoglu had vowed, after being named Prime Minister, that he would work in harmony with the President, he is believed to have unsuccessfully attempted to send 4 former cabinet ministers accused of corruption to court for trial. Since 2 graft probes went public in December 2013, following which the 4 ministers left their posts, Erdoğan has dismissed the claims of corruption, saying that the probes were part of an attempt to oust the government. Despite being well aware of the attitude of Erdoğan, who was prime minister when the investigations became public, Davutoglu recently said no one involved in corruption would be tolerated within the ruling party. "We would cut off their arms, even if those who are involved in corruption are our brothers," the Prime Minister said in December just before a parliamentary commission convened to vote on whether to refer the 4 ex-ministers to a top court for trial. But then, the commission, in which the ruling party had a clear majority, voted against referral, allegedly following an intervention by Erdoğan. Erdoğan obviously feared that he would also be called to account before law on charges of corruption should the 4 ex-ministers be referred to court. One of the prosecutors who conducted the graft probes recently revealed that Erdoğan emerges, based on the voice recordings leaked over the internet after the probes, as the #1 suspect in the corruption operation. Erdoğan previously defended parliamentary system. Erdoğan's claim that most developed countries are governed by a presidential system is not true, either. Apart from the US, where the system seems to work relatively well, most developed countries are parliamentary democracies. Germany, Japan, Great Britain, Italy, Spain, Canada, Australia are all parliamentary democracies. In the case of France, it is a semi-presidential system. There is no other country where the presidential system functions successfully other than the US, said the CHP's card, who also maintained that Erdoğan aims to divert people's attention from corruption in the government and real problems in the country. Based on the current constitution, Erdoğan cannot be held to account before the law for any crime other than treason. But despite the fact that it is only the government which is accountable for any steps taken, Erdoğan has kept meddling in the affairs of the government since being elected. Erdoğan is a powerful figure within the ruling party, as before being elected president he headed the AK party and the government for 12 years. Under the guise of a presidential regime, Erdoğan is seeking to put in place an authoritarian regime, Sabancı Kılıçdaroğlu fears. Erdoğan's current view about the best-fitting political regime for Turkey is in sharp contrast to what he said back in 2007, when the ruling AK party was working to draw up a new constitution. In a speech in 2007, Erdoğan as prime minister argued that the president's powers should be limited for a better functioning of democracy. "We are drafting a constitution in which the president's authority will also be restricted," he said during a program aired on TRT2. Back in 2007, the AK party said in its program that the powers of the president would be re-evaluated in line with the parliamentary system. That meant a president with only symbolic powers. "This is a view which is diametrically opposed to what Erdoğan preaches today," said Istanbul Seyir University's Özbudun, who was charged by the ruling party at the time with drawing up a new constitution.